like a move they would make. Meanwhile, huge game in the AFC Sunday as the 12-3 Ravens host the 11-4 Dolphins. This is a pivotal game for both teams. If the Ravens win, they will be the number 1 seed in the AFC, have a first-round bye, home field advantage throughout the AFC playoffs. But if they lose, the Dolphins are in the driver's seat. They would clinch the number 1 seed with a Week 18 win over Buffalo. Also, if Miami lost and the Bills win, if Miami loses and the Bills win, that means the Week 18 game between Miami and Buffalo is for the AFC East. If the Dolphins win, Dolphins win this game, the Browns can still get the 1 seed. There's all kinds of stuff at stake in this game. But what I'm curious about, and we talk about it every week, and it's somebody different every week, is the MVP award at stake in this game.
I don't think that the MVP is at stake. I believe that Lamar Jackson right now, and I've felt this way for a couple weeks, is the leader of the pack at the MVP. I've said it that it's almost like the Heisman in college football. There was moments. He had his moment last week. Tua and Tyreek have certainly a chance this week versus what Baltimore's defense did to San Francisco. I think that it is Lamar's MVP to lose.
Yes.
I think the only person that I don't know.
So it is at stake.
No, because I think
because the other person to me is Christian McCaffrey, though.
No, for me it's Josh Allen. If Josh Allen plays the next 2 weeks like he has this season, and they go on the road and beat Miami in Week 18 to win the division, it's going to be hard not to give Josh Allen.
Josh Allen didn't do a ting against the Dallas Cowboys, right? Last week he wasn't great against the Los Angeles Chargers. But you're saying that if Josh Allen plays well the next 2 weeks, Josh Allen wins the MVP.
I think it's going to be hard.
So Josh Allen has had a better year than Dak Prescott.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, I
guys, if he plays,
totally disagree. Look, I think the answer.
Everything for the Cowboys is roses. He's going to account for 45 touchdowns if he plays well tonight.
Hold on a second, guys. A week ago, I did predict Lamar Jackson, but if you go back to the game of the century last Monday night, he was the best football player on the field, and sometimes we have to look at the title of the award. You take Lamar Jackson out of the Ravens, they are average.
Yeah, I agree. Lamar's in the lead right now. I think it's Lamar's to lose. My point is, if Josh goes for 45 total touchdowns, which I think he needs 5 more, and they win the division, given the 85% of their touchdowns are scored by Josh, I think it's going to be hard not to give it to him. I do.
That's probably a discussion for another day. Right now, I do want to put up the picks for Ravens-Dolphins because the Bills are not involved in this. It's all Ravens. Look, you said that Allen was having a better year than Prescott. There's no measure by which that's conceivably true. So we can talk about that another time. That is absolutely incorrect. I'd like to hear one of them. But anyway, we're not going to do that.
Total touchdowns.
Because you are benching 9-time Pro Bowl quarterback Russell Wilson.
Sean Payton says it's a football decision, and they're looking for a spark, and that may be true.
Yeah, we need a spark, so we're going to go with Jarrett Stidham. Well, this was purely a financial decision. First opportunity to move on for Russell Wilson, Sean Payton took it.
I can just assure you one thing. I'm just interested in winning.
Yeah, but the big news, obviously, of the week, the benching of Russell Wilson in Denver, and we've talked all about the way it's been handled and the financial reasons for the decision, everything. But I want to talk about Russell Wilson because you go back a year and a half, right? We were like talking about, well, what can he get himself to the Hall of Fame? Is he already a Hall of Famer? Like the time he has spent in Denver, and I know you were never completely sold on the idea of Russell Hall of Fame, but as the time he spent in Denver, what damage has that done to his legacy?
To clear that up, I've never I didn't have a Russell Hall of Fame argument. I had a Russell makes your team an immediate Super Bowl contender discussion. I think when you look at his statistics, his ability to having won a Super Bowl, what he's accomplished in Seattle, I thought he was on a Hall of Fame trajectory for sure. But this has definitely tainted Russell Wilson's Hall of Fame candidacy. On the other side, it's also, to me, tainted him personally. Some of the stories you heard about Russell Wilson, just as a player, some of the things you heard about Russell Wilson and the way that he behaved in the building, whether it was having offices or having his coach around the building, some of those things that we heard once Nathaniel Hackett was fired. Now, Sean Payton comes right in and says, okay, we're not going to do those things. What does Russell Wilson do? He never comes back and says anything publicly. He changes who he was around the building. Sean Payton is publicly berating him on who he is as far as kissing babies, wanting to be a politician and all those things, and still he shows you the professionalism. Now, when you look at the play says if Russell Wilson can go somewhere next year, sort of have a resurgence, there's going to be another conversation about him being a Hall of Famer. He's going to be one of those guys that probably doesn't get in on the first ballot, but does get in. And I think what we've learned about him this year is that Russell Wilson is about the business of football. He's about showing you that in whatever circumstance it is, I can do my best to adjust, adapt, and be something different for the people in my building. And I think that was a huge step for me of not only understanding him, but having more respect for him for what he does within organizations.
And then, RC, to move that story forward to next year, guys, like Baker Mayfield, and we talked half the show about Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson could go start next year. There are going to be a dozen teams that need a starting quarterback. I would put him in New England and say, hey, you got to blow up that quarterback room. Bailey Zappi, you're a grade 3. I'm going to start Russell Wilson. I'm going to draft somebody for the future.
I like that in New England.
Yeah. Or Pittsburgh, what's Russell Wilson with that Pittsburgh defense? There's going to be a dozen teams that need a quarterback. So if I'm Russell Wilson, I say, you know what? I swallow hard. It's disappointing. But you know what? 2024 is right around the corner, and I'm going to see Baker Mayfield resurrect his career. I'm going to do the same.
The legacy is unquestionably negatively impacted.
Sure.
He was a Hall of Fame trajectory the last 2 seasons. I'll say this, the last year of 2022 did not go well. This year has gone well. But you're now having an organization that is basically saying, we are going to admit this is the worst trade in the history of the NFL. This trade and the Deshaun Watson trade right now look like 2 of the worst trades in the history of the NFL. Obviously, the Watson one is a little bit of a, we'll see how it ends. It seems like this one's over.
Yes.
So that is absolutely going to hurt his legacy when it comes to what is he as a Hall of Famer. My issue is like this, outside of, believing it was handled unquestionably poorly. Dude, he was on track for 30 touchdowns and 10 picks this year. That's we're just moving on from that, and we're just living in this world where that's not really good quarterback play.
It's not. I don't think people are. I don't think that's really the question. No, because I can be honest. When I watch the film doesn't always tell me that Russell Wilson is playing great from the position. Like when you can look at it statistically, you can say those things. But what it is Russell Wilson is doing what he's asked to do, and he's making the plays at a high level in critical football moments, right, at least until the last 4 games. Russell Wilson wasn't going to outplay the biases of Sean Payton. Right? And I said it when he walked into the building. I said, personality-wise and schematically, style of play, this is the worst match of head coach, play caller, and quarterback in the entire NFL.
Do you think others have that, though? Like, do you think if Sean Payton had that bias of him, do we think that Bill Belichick, if he's still in New England, is gonna? Or Mike Tomlin, if he's still in Pittsburgh, is gonna?
First of all, go back to RC's point. I totally agree. Like, it was a matter of if, not when. It only takes one. Nathaniel Hackett was like, hey, we could get to the playoffs and maybe the Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. So, Dan, it only takes one in free agency. And that's why, again, you look at Baker Mayfield. He's on his 4th team. But they said, you know what, Todd Bowles, Dave Canales.
But
but Tannenbaum, the thing with Russ, though, the thing with Russ was, There weren't questions coming out of Seattle, but for Seattle, there was always something on those teams you could point to say this helped Russell Wilson play well. This defense, this run game is the reason Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl. This was supposed to be his opportunity to sort of go out on his own and show people that I could be the reason that an entire organization rebuilds to his glory days. And the 2022 season made people feel, okay, he can't do it at all. And now 2023, to me, wasn't above and beyond to a point where you get the feeling of let Russ cook as he's leaving Seattle.
And that's the key, right? Seattle's decision was going to be 35. He's going to want close to $50 million a year. We don't think he's that kind of player. So now, right, now that didn't work in Denver, does he go the Baker Mayfield route? Can he build it?
Will he do that? Yeah.
But here's my thing. It's not the Baker Mayfield route because, one, Baker was like $12 million this year. Am I right in that number? Somewhere around there?
Yeah.
He, obviously, Russell's contract is significantly different. I look at it like this. This is why I go back to bringing that question to you, RC, because when the Rams moved on from Jared Goff, it was a massive contract, he's not good enough anymore. Not player-wise, we can't get back to the Super Bowl with him. We want a better player. When the Eagles moved on from Carson Wentz, it was, he's not good enough anymore. We can't get back to the Super Bowl with him. That's like the play doesn't align with that theory that he's not good enough anymore player-wise. And so you're going to eat all that money and all those picks off of we don't like you. Well, and so what other teams are
I don't think so. I don't think Sean Payton is saying, I don't think he likes him, but I can't be sure.
Sure.
I don't think that, but I don't think Sean Payton is saying that that play isn't good play. I think he's saying it's not Super Bowl play. I don't believe the Rams moved on from Jared Goff because they didn't believe he could play. They just thought they could get a better player.
Right, sure.
And I think that's what the Denver Broncos believe. That guy's not Jarrett Stidham. Let me be very clear.
Yeah, that's
but
the thing.
I think for them, it's let's not be on the hook for that 2025 contract.
Right. They got Matthew Stafford in the Goff trade, right? Yes. They knew exactly who they were getting to replace him. The Broncos at the moment don't.
Right. So, guys, in 2 short months, we're going to be at the Combine. A dozen teams need a starting quarterback. My glass is half full of Russell Wilson because he is owed $39 million. Right. He is going to pay for $1 million for somebody next year because the rest of it is all offset to the Broncos. Therefore,
you think Russell Wilson going to play for $1 million?
He's going to play for 39.
He's going to get 39. He's going to get 49 million.
He doesn't care who's signing the checks.
Tell me that if the Broncos cut Russell Wilson,
yes,
they have to pay him all that money, and he can then go to whatever team.
He will sign he will go to another team for the minimum because he's going to get $39 million from the Broncos.
Now that changes the conversation.
Yeah. That's a big difference.
Drastically.
That's what I'm saying.
Mike,
so
you buried the league.
Well, you were on fire today.
We could get him off the TJ Maxx layaway. That's a different thing.
Then there's a lot of teams.
So people know what we're talking about. There are offsets in the contract so that any money he makes from a new team, Denver gets that money back.
So he will get 39.
He'll get 39. If somebody signs him for 40, then he gets one more. Right? But
if he makes $38 million or less from another team, he makes $39 million next year. So if I'm another team and I'm looking at my options, I say, Russell Wilson, come resurrect your carear, play great ball.
But he has to be cut. That's not.
He will be cut. He'll be cut. There's no other.
Like Tannenbaum. Now you talking that GM. Now you talking.
I'll tell you what, though, Russell Wilson on a minimum salary, that sounds like the Patriots. Right?